Buster Upton has a passion for exploring the world, but not in the polished, picture-perfect way we often see on Instagram. For Buster, true adventure lies in authentic travel, where 90% of the experience isn't glamorous, and moments of uncertainty, challenge, and even a little fear are all part of the journey. In this episode, we'll travel alongside Buster to some incredible places, including the hauntingly fascinating site of Chernobyl. Get ready for a raw and real look at what adventure truly means with Buster Upton. Welcome to Journey with Jake. This is a podcast about adventure and how through our adventures we can overcome the challenges of life that come our way. While I expect you will learn some things about different adventures, this show will entertain you. Each episode will feature a different guest or guests as they share experiences and stories from the different adventures they have been on. Not only will you be entertained, but you will also hear the failures and trials each guest faces and what they have done or are doing to overcome the hardships that come their way. My goal is to take each of us on a journey through the experiences of my guests with the hope that you'll be entertained and inspired to overcome your day-to-day challenges. After all, it's not all about the destination as it is about the journey. Journey with Jake. My name is Jake Bushman, and I'm your host for another fantastic episode. What a great opportunity I had to speak with Buster Upton. Like a lot of my guests, I found Buster on Instagram, and there was something about his videos and posts that just made me like the guy, and I wanted to hear more. You're in for a real treat as we talk about all kinds of things dealing with travel, and most importantly, Buster's journey and why adventure means so much to him. Before we get into my conversation with Buster, if you've not done so already, please subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts so you don't miss any episodes of the show. If you'd like to get to know me better, the best place to do that is on Instagram at Journey with Jake Podcast. Besides featuring past, present, and future guest clips, I also like to put out some information about me as well. While you are there, give me a follow, say hi, and comment. I love to hear from all of you. Journey with Jake is part of the Podmatch Podcast Network. To check out some fantastic shows, just go to podmatch.com/network. As I mentioned, Buster was such a great guest, and I was grateful I had the chance to speak with Buster about his journey, travels, and adventures. If you like this episode, you will also enjoy episode 29 with fellow podcaster and friend James Hammond about his many adventures and travels. Okay, let's get to my conversation with Buster Upton. Well, I'm excited today. I have Buster Upton joining me on Journey with Jake. Buster, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. Just so people know, and just a little background on how I find some of my guests sometimes, because I don't think I've really mentioned this on my podcast much. I do a lot of just finding people like through Instagram. And you popped up. I must have seen a reel or something. And it's a while ago because what I do is I typically save it. If I'm like, oh, I want to talk to that person, I'll kind of save it in my phone. And then I think I had a whole bunch of other episodes and just other people I was talking to. And so I was kind of going back through. I'm like, oh, yeah, Buster, let me send a note to Buster. And so here you are. You said, yeah, let's do it. So
yeah, cool.
Kind of fun. Yeah, it's kind of fun just organically how I come across some people. And anyway, I'm looking forward to talking to you. This one's going to be a little bit different, I think, because usually I can kind of gather a lot. You know, people have maybe a website or they're usually promoting something or they got a book or they're doing things like that. I don't know anything about you, Buster. So this is going to be just like,
yeah,
I'm going to learn all about you right here and now. So it'll be a lot of fun.
This is the opening.
Exactly. So before we get cranking, because the only thing I do know about you is you're out backpacking around, traveling the world, basically.
Yeah,
that's all I know.
Yeah. Okay.
So before we dive into some of your travels and experiences, tell me about Buster, where you're from. Obviously, your accent's a little different than mine. So tell everybody where you're from and all that good stuff.
Yeah, well, my name's Buster. I'm 26 years old, and I'm from North Queensland in Australia. I live in a fairly small city just off the coast of the Great Barrier Reef, and ever since I was really young, I've really loved traveling. I'm fascinated with the world, different cultures, and last year or the year before, I decided to make an Instagram under the pressure of my friends, like a public Instagram, just to kind of show off a little bit, I suppose, and I was never much of a social media guru when I was younger, and I used to travel a lot. And they said, hey, you really need to start posting some of your videos or do a little bit of storytelling. And it really started last year when I quit my job for about the third time, and went on a world backpacking trip.
See, okay, that amazes me how people just can quit a job and go travel. So we'll get into that for a second. So born and raised Australia.
Yeah, I was actually born in Ireland. My parents are Irish. My mum's Australian, but she's of Irish descent, and my dad is fully Irish. He moved here in his piece. So I'm lucky enough to be a dual passport holder, which really
Very
helps.
good.
That's always
Yeah.
a bit of a fun travel fact. Yeah, so I was born in Ireland. I moved to Australia when I was really young. Like I am Australian, but yeah, I moved here when I was about 1 or 2
So
to Irish
your
migrants. Yeah,
accent though is Australian, right?
yeah, 100%.
Okay.
Everything about me is Australian. Yeah, just that little piece of paper that says I'm not.
Yeah, just a little piece of paper that says you're not. Your dad's probably hoping you'll more of that Irish comes out, but hey,
Yeah,
you're living in Australia, what are you gonna do, right?
yeah, yeah. That's right. He lives here now anyway, so he's got no excuse.
Yeah. How any siblings? You solo or
No,
you got any?
just me.
Just you.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah. I grew up just with my mum for most of my life, and yeah, I had an awesome childhood. Lots of friends, pretty normal life. Lived in the suburbs with my mum, and yeah, now live here in beautiful North Queensland, and yeah,
Wow. Okay. So as a youngster, then just living with your mom, did you and your mom travel like around Australia, or did you go international? What did you guys do as
yeah,
growing up?
all the time. Mum always liked to sort of got itchy feet and just wanted to go around every sort of school holidays, every long weekend or something. We'd go camping. Used to camp all the time. And I still do camp quite a lot when I'm at home. We live in such an awesome place. I've been to the US now and it's very similar. There's just so much to see. It's obviously a massive country. And yeah, I'm lucky enough to have been to most places in Australia as well. I remember when I was about 15 or 16, I was in high school and mum sent me a text at school. She goes, when you get home, you're going to pack your bag. You're going to drive to Western Australia, which is like a 5 day. It's like 1,000, 2,000 miles away from where we were living at the time. She said, right, we're going to Western Australia because I really want to go. I said, right. And that was sort of not uncommon as a kid. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Very good. So your mom had that adventurous spirit about her. She was like
Yeah.
ready to go.
Yeah, absolutely. And then my first sort of big trip is when I was 14 over our Christmas holidays. My mum took me to Western Europe for 2 months. And
Wow.
that was like the big sort of like I'd wanted to go overseas for a long, long time. And yeah, I got to see sort of the town I was born in Ireland. Got to see some long lost relatives. Yeah, and on that trip we went to the UK, France, Germany, and Ireland. Yeah, it was awesome. And from there, it was sort of like, okay, now we're going.
So you had the bug. Like you were like, okay, I've had a little taste of this growing up with my mom. You've got the bug. You're like, I got the travel bug. I'm gonna hit it, and you just start traveling.
Yeah, I was there as
But
like as
yeah,
a
go ahead.
teenager,
I'm
and I was
sorry.
like, yeah, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Everything about it.
What do you think it was? What do you think being a teenager? What was it that was like so awesome about it to you?
I was just fascinated. I was always fascinated with other countries, even like when I was much younger, looking at flags and different languages. And then I was kind of like, oh, well, like I looked at a map and I was like, well, I've only just been to this bit. I've just been to France and Germany and the UK. Like that's just a speck on the whole globe. And I was like, right, well, I really want to go somewhere else now. I got to see that place. And then, oh, someone was talking about that place on that trip. I got to go there. And then it just unravels from there. I want to go everywhere.
Do it all. Go everywhere. So getting done with school, high school, did you go to college? Did you do that kind of route? What did you
No,
do?
I was actually I really didn't like high school. Much to mum's enthusiasm. Actually, my travels actually started when I was in high school. I was 16 and I was like seriously considering dropping out. I just hated it. Me and my friend used to skip school like every day, and we got called into the school's office and they said, "Hey, like you boys are at like a serious risk of not completing high school here. What can we do? Can we help you do an apprenticeship or?" And there was a little form in the corner of the office that said, go on student exchange. And I looked at my mate, and we were a bit naughty back then. I said, "Wait, should we do this?" And yeah, long story short, both of us actually ended up leaving school for the year to go to school somewhere else. And we went to this seminar, and we come home, told our parents, said, "Hey, we can actually go to school overseas, and the school's going to help us do it." And on the day, they said, "Oh, well, what are you thinking about?" And I said, "Oh, well, I want to go to school in Northern Europe somewhere." And I ended up going to school in Finland for the next Yeah, for my second last year of school.
So you're like 16, 17 years old
Yeah,
living
and I
in
said to
Finland.
yeah, that's basically how it happened. I was like drop out of school or go to school somewhere else. The next minute, ended up in the middle of Finland, in this small city in eastern Finland, and my mate was in Sao Paulo in Brazil, and we are texting each other like, "This is awesome. This is way better than going to school." Yeah, and yeah, mum was cool with it. Mum was really cool with it. I didn't end up dropping out of school, and I did yeah most of my last year of school in Finland, and yeah, and then from there, then that's when the travel like really started.
Wow. Okay. I want to go back to this whole Finland thing because this is wild to me. Okay. So, first of all, they set you down. They're like, hey, man, you and your buddy, you're like, you're not going to make it. You guys are going to flunk out of school. You're
Yeah,
going to flunk out of high school. But here's an opportunity. You see this opportunity to go study abroad, essentially.
yeah,
You
it
ended
was a
up in Finland.
yeah.
Language barrier? I mean, was there any of that going on? I mean,
Yeah, I was lucky enough to be knowledgeable enough about sort of these countries in Northern Europe that I was like, okay, well, at least they can. Okay, no, they can speak English.
yeah.
I ended up choosing Finland because it was a coin toss actually between Norway and Finland, and I was like, well, yeah, I'm going to go there. And they actually set me when I got to Finland, they'd place me in an international class, like an international baccalaureate sort of class. So all the lessons were actually done in English. There was a mishap when I first got enrolled to the school. There was a whole heap of classes I had to do which were taught in Finnish, and I didn't know I didn't lick. I didn't even know anyone that was Finnish. Yeah, my first day of school was actually really daunting. I was probably one of the only 3 kids at the school that didn't have like pasty white skin and bleached blonde hair and the blue eyes. And everyone was staring at me, and I couldn't understand. My very first lesson actually was an ethics class, and the teacher talked to me for about 15 minutes in Finnish, but I didn't realize she was talking to me until one of the kids gave me a bit of a nudge on the shoulder, and I was like, "Oh, sorry." And she was the only teacher at the school that couldn't speak English,
Wow.
just me, and I didn't know what she was saying, and I was just nodding, trying to be like a bit quiet in the back, hoping she wouldn't, stop looking at me. Turned the whole class was looking at me, and I just said, "Hey, I'm sorry, I don't know what you're talking about."
What's crazy about this, Buster, is I sit there and I think like if I was put in that position at that age, I would be scared. I'd be like calling home crying. But it sounds like you're like, this was awesome. You know what I mean? My
Yeah.
buddy's in Sao Paulo and I'm here. This is awesome. Is that what it was like? Or was there any moments of you're like, oh, what did I do?
No, I didn't. I don't know. It's weird. I didn't think about it a whole lot. I mean, it is looking back on it. 16. I'd only been in Finland for like 3 or 4 days, and now I'm in this ethics class, and I don't understand what anyone's saying to me. It should have been scary, really, but I was just like, well, it's better than doing maths at home.
I love it. I love the fact that you just rolled with it, and it kind of fits from what I've seen of you on Instagram, and all I've seen is just your Instagram reels. I don't really know you, but it just kind of fits your personality from what I've seen. So
Oh, cool.
that
Yeah,
seems appropriate.
I tend to not really like. I don't really. Nothing phases me a whole lot. It's kind of like, oh, there's nothing I can do about it. I'm here.
Wow. So you did the Finland thing, and then you said then that's what really kind of sparked your whole
Yeah.
travel thing.
When I was towards the end of my Finland trip, I had a few weeks off, and I had a backpack that my mum had bought me for my birthday the year before, and I caught I caught a ferry by myself, and I went to Estonia, and then I caught a bus to Latvia, and that was the first trip I ever did by myself. It was just after my 17th birthday. Yeah, and I
Wow.
backpacked around the Baltic Sea for a couple of weeks. Yeah, it was wicked.
As a 17-year-old, just cruising
Yeah,
around.
yeah, yeah. And the language barrier is much worse in Latvia and Estonia than it is in Finland, just for reference.
Wow. So what were you doing? Were you just using your creative juices to like figure out where to stay and what to do? I mean, how did you do
Yeah,
this?
I had like I don't know. I think I had like $400 or something, and I was like, well, I got to make this work. And I went to I don't know. Went to some museums. I went to the pub. I just you know, went to some rivers. Yeah, I just looked at things that I thought would be cool. Had a scroll on Instagram, tried to find some ideas of places to visit in the middle of Latvia. Yeah,
Wow. Okay.
yeah,
So you're 26 now. So this was just 9 years ago. It's all. It wasn't
yeah,
too long ago. Wow. Okay. It's amazing. So it was before the whole pandemic and all that.
yeah.
Then
Back in the glory days.
back in the glory days. Because I kind of feel like, and maybe it's because I started this at partway through the pandemic, and
Yeah,
so I feel like maybe travel's become more of social media thing. Maybe it was before too. I just didn't notice as much. I don't know.
Yeah, I do. I was pretty heavily into looking
Were you
at stuff
okay?
on Instagram and travel, and Instagram has definitely changed, and it is much easier for people to find stuff, and a lot more people do promote it, like myself now, I suppose, on Instagram, post-COVID. I think every social media is bigger post-COVID, I reckon.
Yeah, I
But
think you're probably right.
uh, but yeah, it was just something to do, and
So in the meantime, okay, so you did that. You traveled by yourself at 17 years old, which is just amazing to me. But then you came home to Australia. I mean, I'm guessing you had to get a job. You had to like
yeah,
life kind of
yeah,
settled in a little bit. Like, kind of how did
yeah,
that all work? Because you said you ended up quitting your job last year or something. So
yeah.
kind of give me that story.
Well, when I actually, it all sort of starts when I got home from Finland. I moved in with my grandmother. My mum moved states. Um, and I got a job as a construction labourer. I worked for a concreting company, and we were just building bridges and fixing apartment blocks. Um, and then I remember I got my first job when I was like first proper job when I was 18, and I got paid $22 an hour. And I was like, this is awesome. I'm getting $22 an hour, and I don't really have to go to school. I'm getting paid, and I was living with my grandma. I was saving up. I was saving, 95% of my salary, and after 3 months, I looked at my bank account. I thought, well, that's a bit bigger than I thought it'd be, and then I quit that job, and I used my Irish passport, and I'd made some friends when I was overseas, and I moved to Sweden. Yeah, yeah, didn't take long at all. So yeah, one of the first jobs I quit, and it definitely wasn't the last job I quit to go traveling. Yeah, I ended up in my friend's parents' house on a farm just outside of Stockholm in Sweden, and it was just the best time ever. My friends had just finished high school. They were actually exchange students in Australia.
Oh, okay.
That's how I met them, and yeah, I was like, cool. And they're like, what should we do? And we're like, oh, let's drive to Norway. Yeah, that happened. Big Europe trip back. This was proper backpacking, like super budget, maybe spending like 10, 15 US dollars a day and that lasted me about 3 or 4 months. And I learned heaps on that trip.
So let's talk about backpacking for a minute, because when you think of, backpacking, a lot of people, like in my mind, the first thing that comes to my mind is like, oh, people hiking through a trail in the woods or something, backpacker
Yeah.
kind of thing.
yeah.
But for you, it's basically you're just taking a backpack to travel the world, essentially. You're
Yes.
Norway and Sweden and
Yeah. It was for
limited
me. Yeah.
budget, everything. I mean, you're
Yeah.
just trying to.
Yeah. Backpacking's just, to me, it's just the same three t-shirts for months on end, and someone with a backpack in a dirty bus station in the middle of nowhere trying to find your way. That's what it feels like. Yeah.
What's the appeal to that? Why is that so fun? Why did you like that
I
so
don't
much?
know. I think just yeah, it is a funny question, and it doesn't sound glamorous at all, and it's definitely not glamorous for 90% of the time. It's when you reach those cool destinations at the top of a mountain or a cool church somewhere. That's when it's cool. But the other 90% is just eating like supermarket, pre-packed supermarket sandwiches.
Yeah, it's not
Yeah.
all the hype that it seems. So tell me, yeah, maybe in some of those earlier, before you started your own Instagram account and things like that, what were some of those maybe where you got to the top of a mountain, or just some examples of some places that you saw, or some stories that you're just like, wow, this is living.
Yeah, I on that first trip after I left home left Australia when I was 18, I went to Chernobyl with one of my friends in Ukraine. Yeah, we caught a flight to Kiev, and we caught a bus, and we're standing in the middle of Pripyat, the abandoned city, and we're looking at reactor number 4 in Chernobyl. And I said to my mate, I was like, dude, this is awesome. Like we can do it. Like getting there and realizing that I can do whatever I want really changed my perspective on travel and things that I want to do. Because I was like, well, we just wanted to do that, and we came here and we did it. And to be fair, it was really easy. And I thought to myself, well, like I can probably go anywhere I really want to go. All you want, everywhere on Earth, all it takes is a flight, a few buses, and maybe a taxi or a bicycle ride, and you can get somewhere. That's all it is to it. Yeah.
When you go to these places, do you have any set plans, or do you just kind of get there and say, let's check this out? Like, how do you do it?
Yeah, very. I typically say I might waypoint 2 or 3 places on the way, and the rest of it just unfolds. You'll talk to someone, and they'll say, "Oh, you should go here." And 90% of the time, I do go, "Oh yeah, all right, I'll go there." Yeah, I bought a one-way ticket to Kiev, in Ukraine, and the only thing I had in my mind was let's visit Chernobyl, and yeah, we ended up in Chernobyl, and then after that, we're like, cool, now what? And yeah,
All right,
ended up in
I got to ask
Poland.
about Chernobyl a little bit then, because
Yeah,
I haven't had anybody talk about Chernobyl on the show before. So, is it like what I imagine it to be? Just kind of the remains? I mean, what's it like?
it felt like the TV show The Walking Dead without the zombies. Yeah. It was honestly one of the coolest places I've been to. We actually got lost in the city of Pripyat. Um, and I thought I was in a forest, and I look up, and there was just this wall of concrete in front of me, and like stairs, like a concrete stairs. And I was so confused because it was just trees, and then stairs. And I was actually inside an old sports athletic stadium.
Oh,
Yeah. As I was in the stadium, I realized that the forest had actually grown up through the field. And I was like, "Whoa, this is cool." It was really like post-apocalyptic, and like something like out of a sci-fi movie. Yeah, then I went
yeah,
to an old abandoned shopping center where like they still had like cans of food on the shelf from back in the 80s. Yeah, I was reading kids' school books, ended up inside a school, and there's old school books with kids' handwriting from the 80s, and because they just left like that, they just got up and left. Yeah, it was really fascinating. Yeah.
that is wild. What's the situation there now? I mean, well, when you went, is there still like radiation in the area? Like, what's the?
Yeah, yeah, there were some well, not forms, but there was some stern warnings. The Ukrainian military was there 24/7. And I mean, there's going to be radiation there for thousands and thousands of years. Just had to be careful. I covered up pretty well on my clothes and tried not to touch anything. Yeah, I definitely didn't go too deep into some of the places. I mean, yeah, I was gonna go there anyway, and I wasn't eating the dirt. I wasn't.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right. Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. You're not rolling around in it. And
No,
okay.
some people still actually live there. The original inhabitants. Yeah, a few of the older people decided they never wanted to leave, so that was reassuring. Lots
Yeah.
of wildlife actually in the area. Um, yeah, it's probably seen more wildlife than I'd seen on most of my travels. Actually, was actually in the Pripyat, Chernobyl area.
Wow. What
Yeah,
kind of
lots of
wildlife do they have there?
uh, deers, fox, lots of bird, lots of bird fauna, and some snakes. Actually, it's probably one of the few places outside of Australia I've seen snakes. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Which I
Wow,
wasn't expecting.
interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
actually, nearly stepped on a snake in Chernobyl. That would have been quite the story to tell if I'd been bitten.
Wow, for
Come
sure.
pick me up.
Wow. Okay. So Chernobyl was one of those places. And after, when you're 18, quit that job, working construction labor, and you're off doing your own thing. How did that work? You just kind of bounce back and forth between Australia, getting a job? Like, how did this work? Like, what did you do until you
That's
finally
right.
quit again?
Yeah,
But lead me up to where we are now, I guess.
yeah, sure. I actually applied for a job before I left. Okay, and I got the job, and I was like, oh, well, this is a pretty well-paying job. It was in aviation. And I flew back home to Australia. Did that uh for a few years, and I actually did that for 2 or 3 years, that job, and I was like, oh, I'm getting a bit, definitely getting itchy feet now, and I was like, well, I was saving lots and lots of money, and the whole idea was to eventually quit that job and spend all my hard-earned cash on just a big world trip, like a one-way trip. I was gonna walk across Pakistan, and I was gonna catch a boat to Cuba, or like it was gonna be crazy. And long story short, I quit my job on the 1st of March 2020. Yeah,
COVID time.
and yeah, then yeah, it was all downhill from there, and I was left with a whole heap of money that I'd saved up, and ended up living with my grandmother again, um, in another house because I'd actually quit my job, and I'd driven about 5,000 kilometers across Australia to park my car at my grandmother's house while I was going overseas. Had all these plane tickets set up. I was taking my mum to Japan for her birthday. That was the first place we were going to. And then yeah, COVID happened, and then it was 2 or 3 years until I could really really travel again. Yeah, didn't couldn't find work for a good year during COVID. I had to spend a lot of that money just to
Just to
survive.
get by.
Yeah, I'm sure everyone has a similar story. It seemed like
Yeah.
2020 was the year everyone was going traveling.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Seems like they all kind of were taking off, doing their thing.
COVID was sort of a bit of a blur. Worked a few more jobs. Ended up moving back to North Queensland where I live now. And then first, it was really hard to travel in those few years, sort of 2022-ish. I did a couple of first flight back sort of things. So I was just really wanted to travel. I was on the first flight back to Bali from here, and then that just wasn't the same. There's no, like, a lot of the tourism did shut down. It's quite hard to travel, and there's also so many restrictions on being a foreigner. You can just go there in that vacation holiday type feel, not these big backpacking adventures that I like to do. And then yeah, it got to the point where it was like, right, travel's back, let's go. And yeah, last year finally quit my job. I'd been working in another construction job. I still work in now. I'm quite lucky. My boss is always happy to have me back. So I think I finally found that sweet spot where that was actually him texting me before. I can sort of come back and forth as I please and work for him. And I think that's going to be my life now for the next few years. Travel when I'm sick of that, come back, earn some money. And
Save up some money and
that's right. Did that last year. I save really frugally when I'm at home because traveling is kind of just my passion. Sort of, that's what I work for now. Pay my rent and renovate my house and then go traveling.
Wow. So that's how you do it. Basically, you work for a little bit, save up as best you can, and then hit the road.
I'm absolutely not I meet so many people who think I'm like a travel guru, that I take my laptop and sip chai lattes at like random foreign cafes. But no, I work a normal job at home. I shovel concrete and I use a hose, and I save my money, put it in my bank account, and then I'm overseas. That's when I spend it all. Yeah. So last year, that's exactly what I did. I worked for 2 years straight, and then I said, hey, dude, I'm going to quit for a while. I'm going overseas. Got a one-way trip. I'll let you know when I'm back. And yeah, that was 6 months ago. I got home from a 9-10 month trip.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And
So 2024 was a big year for you
oh
as
yeah,
far as travel goes.
it was wicked. Yeah, ended up traveling through 20-30 countries that year.
Wow. Okay. So can you kind of give me just the overview, kind of some of the places you hit? I don't know if you know it off the top of your head or not, but what
Yeah.
just kind of some highlights of the places you went in 2024, because it sounds like that was kind of the year. And is that the year that you started posting on Instagram for everyone to see?
Yeah,
Okay.
my account's about a year old now, so I think I'm pretty close to. I left at the end of January last year. Got a flight to Bali because I actually live quite close to Bali, so it's really easy to get to. I went to every country in Southeast Asia last year, except for Myanmar due to the civil war, and Brunei. So did the whole lot. Thailand, Cambodia, Malaysia, Singapore, Vietnam. Yeah, so that was a big trip. That was a big part of the trip last year. And then after that, we went to Sri Lanka for a few weeks. My girlfriend really wanted to go to Sri Lanka.
Yeah, you said we, so I'm like, who you traveling with?
Yeah. Last year I did. It's the first trip I haven't done by myself, and I was with my girlfriend. She also quit her job. She was actually living in New Zealand at the time, so it was quite nice for both of us to quit our jobs at the same time. We were in the same frame of mind, and then we took off. I went to a few of the stands. I went to Uzbekistan and Kyrgyzstan last year, which normally gets a few eyebrow raises from people. It's somewhere a bit different. And
Yeah,
then
for sure.
a little bit of a Europe trip, went to see some family in the UK and Ireland again. And then I spent the last 3 months in Alaska of my trip last year. Yeah,
All
it was
right.
my
Went stateside to Alaska. Very cool.
Yeah, that was
I've never been to Alaska, and I live in the States and I haven't been. I heard it's
yeah.
awesome.
Hey, that's what 90% of Americans I've met have said. I find it to be like one of the only states that other Americans don't hate on. Everyone's always complaining about Californians or Texans or New Yorkers, and then everyone gives a thumbs up to Alaska, but none of them have ever been.
Yeah, I've never been. I'd love to go, but I haven't been.
Yeah, Alaska is a different place. It's cool. Yeah, it was
Very
a
nice.
really eye-opening experience. Yeah, I've actually got a buddy from Australia who is Alaskan, and got to stay with him. So I got the real experience.
Oh yeah, and that's what it looks like from what I've gathered looking at Instagram or your account. And first of all, what is your account so people know what's your Instagram account?
It's just visit with Buster. Visit with Buster.
Visit.with.buster. Love it. Visit with Buster.
Yeah.
Great. So it looks like that's what it seems like you try to find. You try to find that real experience. You're not just going and sitting on a beach, in a tourist spot. It sounds like you're trying to you're going to Chernobyl and you're going to these places that just seem real authentic. Is that kind of the whole idea when you get out there?
Absolutely. A lot of my travels, I stay with people that I've met on previous trips. I use an app called couch surfing a lot of the time, which is
I've heard of
basically,
couch surfing.
you
Yeah.
have heard of couch surfing? Yeah, you just go stay with a random dude and a random lady. And yeah, very first time I did it, stayed with this guy in an apartment in Poland, this Polish guy, and he took me around town. I was like, this is so much better than staying in a hotel. Yeah, things like that. That's the idea. Stay with some friends, get a local experience, and really go out to the countryside. That was one of the best parts about my trip in Central Asia, in Kyrgyzstan. I made a friend there and ended up staying with his mum and auntie. That was just like, wow, this is so different. Like you'd never get to experience that at a hotel or a motel or, yeah.
Yeah. What kind of things is it like when you're staying with somebody like that? What is it that you're getting? Because I know, yeah, besides just a place to stay and kind of
Yeah.
seeing how they live, what
It's
is
a,
it that you're getting?
it's a chat. Like I love talking to people. And when you're with someone, you can talk about everything. It's not just the normal conversations you have. You talk about what the neighbors do, what it was like for them as a kid. I love asking people how their hometowns changed over the years, and if it's a tourist destination, whether they like the tourism or if they don't like the tourism. A lot of the time, I'm sort of the only foreigner in the area, um, and I get lots of stares, and I say, "Hey, well, you ask them, you get personal with a lot of the questions. That's what I like. I just, and a lot of people don't really care. You can talk about politics or you can talk about religion, and they're normally pretty open. Once you're in their house in their spare room, they're normally pretty cool, and you learn a whole lot. And I'm like, oh wow, I didn't think of that. That's what I like.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
those dadgum Americans who aren't so open about that, right?
so,
Uh,
some of them are far too open.
yeah, or they're way too open. Yeah, there you go. Exactly. So for you, let's talk about the why. Like, what is the whole point of this for you? Like, where do you see it going? Like, what does the future hold for you? Why do you do this?
Yeah. Oh, good question. I like the freedom of just being. Well, I actually just got back from a 10-day trip to Indonesia. I've actually got a bit of jet lag. That's why I look so tired. Got back yesterday. I was at work and I was like, oh, it's only $100. And I texted my girlfriend and said, hey, we're going to Indonesia. And it was kind of like, we get there and we're like, this is just the best. We can do whatever we want. We don't have to go to work. Because I don't like going to work, to be honest. That's a big part of the why. I mean, does anyone like going to work? But I really don't like going to work. There's some days. And the feeling of like impending like adventure. I love having to work out what I'm doing next. If I want to go from A to B somewhere foreign, like I have to work for it, and I do have to use my head a lot of the time and work out the most efficient route and learn another language on the spot and yeah, problem solve a little bit. That's fun. And it feels like I've accomplished something when I finally get to the top of the mountain. It's like a sense of accomplishment when you're like, oh, I did that, because a lot of people are scared. Yeah, the reason behind my account was my friends are like proper. A lot of them have that real small town mentality where a lot of them will probably never leave the state that they're from. I'm sure it's the same with a lot of Americans.
Absolutely. And I've for sure. And I think that's why I enjoy doing what I do here with this, because when am I ever gonna talk to Buster, who's been all over the place,
Yeah.
who's gone to Chernobyl for Pete's sake? I mean, it's just it's amazing, and it's amazing to hear your stories. I wanted to talk to you there. So I looked at quite a few of your reels that you have on
Okay.
Instagram, your
Yeah.
posts. There was one that really was fascinating to me.
Okay.
It was the sounds of different places.
Yeah. The with the no audio overlap.
Yeah, yeah. You just had like the sounds of where you were at, whether there was a cat in one spot, there was sheep in a road, another spot. You were in a city. I mean, talk to me about like just because it sounds like you love it because it gives you a sense of purpose, like when you make it from point A to point B and you figured it out. So it sounds like you have that, but there's so many different elements to all of it as well,
Yeah.
like just with the sounds.
I'm actually quite happy you said that because those I've made a couple of those reels and they're one of my favorites to make because to me that's the real traveling. You see travel videos and they're often glamorized, which sort of it annoys me a little bit because like it's really not. You're hearing the roar of an engine when you're on the plane. You're hearing the beeping of a taxi. There's sheep on the road. You spend a lot of time by yourself thinking when you're traveling. Like I'm doing a lot of bus rides, a lot of time sitting down, a lot of walking, and you're not hearing like a Dua Lipa song in the background. You don't have that awesome music. You're hearing everyday sounds, and I think it's important for people to remember that when you're doing this cheap budget travel. And that was one of the reasons, I posted that, because it's to try and give it a sense of normality. And I find myself when I am traveling, I'm just I'm a drop in the ocean, and I'm just a person in someone else's life, whether I'm in a taxi of an Uzbekistani man in the back of his car, he's just trying to make $5 for the day, or I'm in a national park in Sri Lanka. It's still someone's life, and I'm just like a side piece in that person's life for an hour or 2 hours, and it's important to remember that. Um, life's normal, life goes on, and part of the reason I'm traveling is I want to see what people are doing in Sri Lanka at this time of day, because it's totally different to what I'm doing back home in Cairns or in New York City.
Absolutely. I'm glad you did that. That was one of my favorite ones that I saw, just because it was so just kind of real, and like, this is what, what you're
Yeah,
hearing and what you're seeing. So I loved
yeah,
it. So yeah,
cool.
keep
Yeah,
doing those every so
that
often,
that's
because
what
those were
that's what Cambodia sounds like. It doesn't sound like a flight center ad. It sounds like cats purring and tuk-tuks
yeah.
driving. Yeah,
Well, and we get on Instagram. I get on Instagram, and I have a bunch of travel accounts. The algorithm pushes me to a lot of them because I talk to a lot of people like you, and
yeah, yeah,
yeah, it's all this cool, fancy music. There's someone strolling on a beach with this cool music, or they're in Cambodia going through the city, but it's all, it's festive music. And it's like, it's not really like that, so it's
no,
nice to get the real feel.
yeah, yeah. That was the purpose. Yeah, you gotta remember that it's real. It's someone's house somewhere. Like, to be fair, life sounds pretty similar whether you're in London or you're in Johannesburg or you're in Osh in the middle of Kyrgyzstan. Like, it's all the same.
Yeah, I love that. That's great. So for this epic year that you had last year,
Hmm.
couple highlights, some of your favorite places, any particular story?
Yeah. Oh, let me think for a second.
Sure.
Yeah, I was Well, I'll give you one. We were in Laos, in Southeast Asia, and just by coincidence, it was Buddhist New Year in Laos. It's quite famous now due to Instagram, and in Thailand next door, it's called Songkran, and it's basically a 3-day festival. And one of the cultural aspects of the festival is you throw water at people. So basically, it's a 3-day water fight that we'd found ourselves in the middle of Laos. And what it is, people line up on the edge of the street in public and have big buckets of water, and you just throw water at people. You get a glass of water, or you get a bucket. And the whole idea of the festival is just to douse people in water. Walking through this little town, and some little kid just throws his bucket of water straight in my face, and you're like, "What?" And I'm a foreigner in Laos, I was just like the target, and everyone's like, "Get him!" And I was just soaked for 3 days straight, and it was like being a kid. And I had, I was culturally inclined to throw water bombs at every single person I saw, wet people with the hose, throw water at cars. It was awesome. It was like being a little kid again, but it was encouraged.
But it was encouraged. I love that. That's a great story.
Yeah,
And you were with your girlfriend too. Is she there as well?
yeah, yeah. She was having a great. I was throwing water at her for most of the time because she's like, get off, but all the other kids are like, you got to get her, you got to get her. So I had 3 days grace to just annoy everyone.
Yeah, that's fantastic. How was it traveling with the girlfriend? Was that a lot of fun? And what'd you think?
Yeah, yeah, it was cool. I mean, I'm sure anyone that's traveled with their partner before realizes there's a few issues. It's a shame both of us get really hangry, so that's probably that was the only downside. Some of the days, like, get off a night bus and you just want something. And I eat everything. My girlfriend's lactose intolerant, so she's got to be really careful with the street food. And we both got food poisoning in Cambodia. None of us ate for like 4 days.
Wow.
It was cool. It was actually it was good. It was a lot easier to travel with someone. Um, in a lot of aspects, we did argue a few times. Like, she really didn't want to go to the Philippines, and I was like, no, we're going to the Philippines. And then I didn't really want to go to Sri Lanka, so we compromised and we went to Sri Lanka. And it was yeah, yeah. But it was cool to have someone. It was actually cool to have someone take videos and photos of me the whole time, especially for Instagram. That made life a whole lot easier.
Yeah, I was wondering about that too, because I was like, how did you get some of these shots of you like doing stuff? And there you
Yeah,
go.
yeah,
That makes sense. All right.
yeah. It was nice because before I had the Instagram account, I I rarely took photos. I actually come back from a 3-month Europe trip, and I had like 9 photos on my phone that I took. I didn't think about it. But now I've got an Instagram, I feel inclined that I've got to, yeah. And it's nice to look back because because a year ago today I was in the Philippines. And I got like a notification on Instagram, 1 year ago today. Cool. I was
Yeah,
doing
bring back.
I was zip lining a year ago today. So I was like, oh yeah, that's cool. It's cool to have.
So everything seems fun. I mean, it looks good, but you said like 90% of it is just kind of the,
Yeah.
trying to find food and going to the supermarket and, traveling and things like that. What would you say are the biggest challenges of living like this?
Yeah, it is you backpacking for a long period of time is you're just living a logistical nightmare sometimes. When you're overseas, and a lot of the time, like we live in Australia and the US, we live at the really live at a really affluent part of planet Earth. Things work, our roads are paved, we never have a shortage of gasoline in the car, and we can afford everything. This isn't the case for 90% of people. That's definitely an issue. We had a horrible travel time in the Philippines. Nothing worked. Everything was a nightmare to get to. We were in a town that actually had the highway collapse on it, and we got into the town, and the highway was just like, if it's just like just a nightmare to drive. A 2-hour drive turned into like 6 hours. We got there, the whole island lost power. All the internet signals went out, and then in the middle of the night, the town had bled dry its water source. So we're in this town, no way to get out. There's no internet to even. I mean, we couldn't speak. We couldn't speak the language that they were speaking there. There's no water. You just got what's left in your bottle, and that was hard. And you got to remember that stuff like that happens, and it's if
It's
you're
real
not in
life.
Western Europe or North America or Australia, they didn't even blink. And for us, I was like, oh, we got no water. What are we going to do? It was funny actually. Next door to me, when the power went out, there was these American girls, who had just left high school, and they learnt how to plumb their toilet because they had no water. They learnt how a cistern works, and I'll never forget. At 2 o'clock in the morning, though, yeah, these American girls who 18, 19, were learning plumbing in the middle of the night in the Philippines because there was no water. Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah. How does this work?
Yeah, sorry, that's a bit random, but
I
I don't
love
know.
it.
I'll definitely never
No,
forget that,
yeah, for sure.
and that's part of it. You know, there's limited to no public transport in Kyrgyzstan, which is really different. Very few places have no public transport. And everyone just catches taxis, and people just haggle on the street to get anywhere. People drive vans, and people go, and I'll give you $10 to drive me there in the van, and that's what it was. Yeah, that's something that you would never think of, and that it is a real issue sometimes. Like we had places that we wanted to go, once you're outside of your comfort zone, you really got to think outside the box. So, yeah, that's things like that it's really hard to travel in some places.
Yeah.
I can understand. I'm sure you've interviewed some people that cycle a lot for their travels. They go somewhere really random and they'll cycle or they'll take a motorbike. It's probably easier sometimes, to be honest, because I've been trying to get somewhere someday and you can't walk there. And yeah, cycling or taking your own motorbike is definitely the go then.
And you're just, trying to figure it out. If you can't walk there and there's no public transportation and trying to haggle your way, that's got to.
Yeah. And,
Did
no,
this
you're right.
make you appreciate, like, what did this do for you as far as appreciation for
Every
what you
time,
have, I guess?
every time I get home, I'm happy that I live in Australia and I'm happy where I live. And it's not just that one trip, it's every trip. I've been grateful for living in such a well-developed place where things work, things are on time. It is fun, and it's definitely fun to try the others, but if it's your daily life, yeah, I'm pretty happy for it. And even, to be fair, even coming back from some other places, like even when I come back from the US, I was like, I'm glad I don't live there. No offense to anyone that's American, but I'm sure people say that about Australia. You like your creature comforts at home. And I'm very much someone that likes living in Australia. I'm happy to travel. I'm happy to spend a lot of time, but things work really well here. Every time I've come home, every time I've crossed immigration, I've been like, okay, I'm happy to be back for that
Nice. I
reason.
like that.
Yeah.
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 That's good.
Yeah.
That's very good. All right. So we're going to we've been chatting here for quite a while. Looking back, especially this last year, but you can look anywhere, I guess, but any of your travels, if you had only one place, you can only go back to one place,
Ah,
which place are you going back to?
I hate that question. It's probably going to be the United States. It's such a massive country, and if it wasn't Australia, it'd have to be the US. You guys are so lucky, and I get really annoyed because a lot of Americans don't travel. You live in one of the most beautiful countries on earth. I did a road trip around the Southwest 2 years ago, and I was in Arizona and New Mexico, and I was like, oh, this is just stunning. I travel for nature most of the time, and you
Hmm.
guys have such a diverse, beautiful country. Yeah, it'd have to be the US purely based on size and diversity.
Yeah, I mean, you said you were in Alaska, which is part of the U.S. And like you said, 90% of Americans haven't even been to Alaska.
Yeah, yeah.
To the Southwest, I'm from Arizona and Utah. I live in Utah now, so yeah, I love the Southwest. But
Oh,
then the
yeah.
Northeast is beautiful. The
Yeah,
Southeast is beautiful. I mean, there's so much. The plains in the middle of the country. Yeah, it's very
yeah. I've
diverse.
I've already got plans to go back. I'm actually migrating to Canada in a month. I've actually got a visa to go live and work in Canada, which is quite, the landscape's quite similar to the north of the US. And yeah, my girlfriend and I have already made plans to go visit Montana, and go visit the Appalachians and the Great Lakes. Yeah, it's it's a really special place, and I think, you can go anywhere on Earth, but if it's one country, yeah, it's got to be the US. It's just so
Gotcha.
huge.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, with how big it is, for sure. Absolutely. So it sounds like you have those plans. You're going to migrate to Canada. What other future plans do you want to do? Like, what's the plan with the Instagram account or anything like that, or what do you just want to keep that rolling? What's kind of your thoughts?
Yeah, to be fair, the I got really into the Instagram for a while, and I kind of just post on it willy-nilly now. I've made some friends online there, and I've obviously got a personal Instagram that I don't share with other people. But yeah, I don't know. I just post it there when I feel like it. If there's something cool that I think other people will like, I'll take a video and upload it to my story. Currently, I'm talking to people about my Indonesia trip because that fascinated me, going to Java. I climbed 2 volcanoes last week, and I was like, oh yeah, people will like that. Yeah, there's no plan, and to be fair, I'm not really good at Instagram.
Me
My
neither.
reels, it's hard. I don't know how people do it, make it look so
Oh,
so
I know.
nice and fruity, and yeah,
It's
that's
amazing.
that's
I don't know. I don't know how people do it because it's tough for me too. I'm
yeah.
with you on that.
I'll
Absolutely.
keep it around. I'll definitely post my Canadian trips on there, and yeah, I should be back in the US next year. Yeah, I've got about 20% of my followers are actually American.
Okay.
They're the biggest cohort of my following, which is cool. So I'm sure
Yeah.
I'm sure that'll get me a bit more attention.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely.
but yeah, a lot of my videos that did well, is the American audience that really pushed it and liked it. They tend to eat it up a bit more, which is cool.
Yeah. That's
So
great.
yeah, the Instagram's just there. I mean, follow me if you want. I know sometimes the videos flunk, but I like what I upload, and that's the main thing. I'm not
Yeah. No.
I'm not here to make money out of it. This is the second sort of thing I've done really. I've never done an interview before, and my girlfriend, she does it quite well, and she gets stuff. She gets like free bags and travel vouchers and things like that. But I'm just like, I don't know, I'm just not good at it. I'm not photogenic.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. My Instagram is not great either. I'm struggling with it too. I mostly post little posts of us talking or some pictures.
yeah, yeah.
It's all
I
my
saw that.
guests. It's all my guests that
Hey,
I'm posting. So
you got a few followers though, so that's cool.
yeah. It's fun. It's a lot of fun. So I enjoy doing this. All right, my final question for you. This has been super fascinating, by the way. I really enjoyed talking to you, Buster. It's been a
Cool,
lot of
thank
fun.
you.
It's a question I like to ask everybody. For you, Buster, what does adventure mean to you?
Adventure to me is when I'm traveling, it's almost the fear of the unknown. It's those times when I've been in the middle of somewhere random and I have no idea what I'm doing. That's the adventure, is unknown, copied with, I've got to work it out. Um, that's an adventure to me. I go somewhere with no plan, and I feel like when I feel like I'm a knight from the 7th century going through medieval Europe, you know, I've got to work it out. I've got to plan. I've got to talk to people to work my way through the forest. Like that's what happens in my head. Unplanned and unknown, and it's almost, if you're a little bit scared, that's when you're on an adventure, I think.
A little bit of the fear sneaking in there.
Yeah,
Love it,
yeah, out of your comfort zone. That's the main thing. That's what makes an adventure, I think.
for sure.
Yeah,
That's probably the thing I hear the most from my guests is being
it
out of
is.
your comfort zone.
That's the general
Absolutely.
consensus. All right, cool. Yeah,
Definitely.
correct.
Buster, thank you so much. This was a ton of fun. Thanks for coming on Journey with Jake.
Yeah, thanks, Jake. It's been awesome. First time I've done a podcast, and I'm happy I've seen yours now. I've read through some of your stories. Once you talk to people like this, you realise that there's actually thousands and thousands of people out there who have really interesting stories, and without asking them the questions, you probably wouldn't know. So I appreciate it.
Absolutely. A big thank you to Buster Upton for joining me on the show and sharing his raw, honest perspective on travel and adventure. I loved hearing about his journey from navigating unfamiliar places to visiting somewhere as fascinating as Chernobyl. Buster reminds us that true adventure isn't always comfortable or Instagram worthy, and that's exactly what makes it so powerful. If you'd like to follow along with Buster's travels, check him out on Instagram at visitwithbuster. That's at visit.with.buster. Give him a follow. Thanks again, Buster, for opening up and sharing who you are with all of us. And to you, the listener, I know I say this every time, but I truly mean it. Thank you for tuning in and being part of the Journey with Jake community. It means the world to me. If you're enjoying the show, I'd be so grateful if you could leave a rating and review and maybe share the podcast with your friends and family. Every little bit helps spread these incredible stories. Next week's episode is a fun one. It's all about bucket lists. I'm talking with Jeremy George, who set out to complete one bucket list item every week for a whole year. His journey is inspiring, uplifting, and might just spark some ideas for your own list. Don't miss it. Just remember, it's not always about the destination as it is about the journey. Take care, everybody.